Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 111b, and we start the 10th and final chapter of this tractate. It's called Hagozel Umachil Esbanov. I think it's called Hagozel, but Umachil. Anyway, the Mishnah, top of the Amud. Mishnah. In the case of one who robs another of food and feeds it to his children, or who left a stolen item to them and then died, the children are exempt from paying the victim of the robbery after their father's death. But if the stolen item was something that serves as a legal guarantee of a loan, the heirs are obligated to pay. That's the whole Mishnah, that one line. Gemara. Amar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda says, if one robbed another and the owners of the stolen item have not yet despaired of retrieving it, and another person came and took it from the robber and ate it, if the owner wishes, he may collect it from this one, meaning the first robber. And if he wishes, he may collect it from that one, the second robber. What is the reason that he may collect it from whoever he chooses? It is because as long as the owners did not despair of retrieving it, it remains the possession of its owner. So that when the second robber stole it from the first, he was in fact stealing from the original owner. Nevertheless, since the first robber was already obligated to return the item, his obligation remains in force, and the owner may demand payment from him if he wishes. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier, that some of these cases are so abstract, like technically speaking. How could you possibly measure when or if the person gave up? I mean, because the person gave up, but then maybe it's like, oh, but no, I don't give up. I mean, you know what I mean? How do you gauge that? You know, you're just saying a blanket statement. Lo Yehoshua Bailam, that the owner didn't give up hope. But how could you possibly measure that? You know? So it's just like a moot point. It's kind of like just very abstract. Okay, anyway. The Gemara questions this opinion based on what we learned in the Mishnah. In the case of one who robs another of food and feeds it to his children, or one who left a stolen item to them as an inheritance, the children are exempt from paying the victim of the robbery after the father's death. This appears to be a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rav Chizda, who holds that one who steals from a thief is obligated to pay the owner. The Gemara answers, Rav Chizda could have said to you that when that Mishnah is taught, it is addressing a case where it is after the owners had already despaired of retrieving the item, whereas Rav Chizda was referring to a case where the owners had not yet despaired. The Mishnah stated that if one left a stolen item to his children as an inheritance, the children are exempt from paying the owner. Rami Bar Chama said that is to say that the domain of an heir is comparable to the domain of a purchaser, just as an item that is purchased leaves the domain of the seller. An item that is inherited leaves the domain of the deceased and is considered the property of the heir. Since the owner has despaired of retrieving the item and the item has changed domains, it is entirely the property of the new owner and he is exempt from payment. Rava disagreed and said that the domain of an heir is not comparable to the domain of a purchaser. Consequently, the item has not undergone a complete change of ownership, and the heir would be required to return it. And as for the explanation of the Mishnah, here we are dealing with a case where they had already consumed the stolen goods, so there is nothing to return to the owner. The Gemara questions the opinion of Rava from the fact that the latter clause teaches if it was something that serves as a legal guarantee and is therefore an existing commodity, the heirs are obligated to pay. It may be inferred that in the first clause, we are also dealing with a stolen item that is extant. This is contrary to Rava's statement that the Mishnah is discussing stolen goods that have been consumed. The Gemara answers, Rava could have said to you that this is what the Mishnah is saying. If their father left them guaranteed property, in other words, land, they are obligated to pay from that property, even if the stolen item is not extant. The Gemara asks, but didn't Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi teach Rabbi Shimon, his son, that this Mishnah is not referring only to something that may actually serve as a legal guarantee, in other words, land, rather is referring to even a cow that he plows with, or a donkey that he drives by directing it from behind, which the heirs are obligated to return because of the honor of the father. This indicates that the Mishnah is referring to stolen property that is extant and not to land. Rather, Rava said, when I die, Rabbi Yehoshua will come toward me from his place in heaven in order to greet me, as I will explain the Mishnah in accordance with his opinion and thereby honor him. As Rabbi Yehoshua taught in a Braita, in a case of one who robs another and feeds the stolen goods to his children, the latter are exempt from paying the owner. If he left a stolen item to them as an inheritance, if the stolen item is extant, the heirs are obligated to return it to the owner. If it is not extant, they are exempt. If their father left them guaranteed property, in other words, land, they are obligated to pay the owner. Rava explains the Mishnah as being consistent with the Braita of Rabbi Yehoshua, although this explanation is not consistent with Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's interpretation. The Gemara analyzes the Braita of Rabbi Yehoshua. The master said in the Braita that if the stolen item is not extant, the heirs are exempt from payment. Let us say this Braita is a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rav Chisda, who says that heirs are obligated to pay for stolen goods that they consumed. The Gemara answers, Rav Chisda could have said to you that when that Braita is taught, it's referring to a case where it is after the owners had already despaired of retrieving the item, whereas Rav Chisda was referring to a case in which the owners had not yet despaired, basically repeating before. The Gemara continues, the master said in the Braita that if the stolen item is extant, the heirs are obligated to pay. Let us say this Braita is a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rami Bar Chama, since according to his understanding, the heirs should be exempt from payment because the stolen item is considered to have changed ownership when they inherited it. The Gemara answers, Rami Bar Chama could have said to you that when the Braita is taught